recording.
So this weekend, let me just hit continue there. This weekend, I spent time working on the instructions and actually working on the story for the game.
Mhm.
I will say it went easier by having the graphics, and I don't know if I should be sharing my screen while I talk about this. I probably should.
Yeah, sure. Let me give you access.
Control here.
Okay, go ahead.
So this is my Illustrator file. Hopefully you're seeing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll zoom in. So I can read this off to you. So the problem that I've been having with the game from the beginning was it was built in a very sort of just run and gun type of situation. The idea came, and I immediately started playtesting with everybody and seeing what was going to happen. There was an idea for a story throughout the process, but I found it, and I don't know if other creators feel the same way, but I found it very difficult to do game mechanics and story at the same time. I think one of the things I realized that this really is, it could take years to make a game. From the research that I've done online, it's like, this is sometimes 5 years to put the whole thing together. There's a lot of moving parts. I had no idea. I had no idea how many moving parts there were. I usually, like say as when we do an illustration, it's like you have this one thing you can concentrate on. And yeah, there's a lot of components that go into an illustration, but you're still on this one frame, and
Right.
you're in this one place, and it keeps you. I don't know. There's a stability in it. There's a stability in it, and
Well,
the
I
same
think
thing when I'm doing.
when you do like a one-off illustration, you're hoping not to make yourself go down a rabbit hole of world building. You're just like, this is just this one scene. I'm not going to worry about what this character is doing here, their history. Let's stay focused on this one moment on this illustration, and not, but gaming, yeah, but that's illustration,
Right. And I think you said it best when you said you focus on not becoming world building. Like
Yeah.
maybe you're doing it in your mind to have backstory for yourself,
Right.
but you're not putting it into the project where you're like,
You'll
okay,
never
now
get
I
it
have to
done.
do this. Yeah, it'll never get done. It'll never get done. Then you're creating a comic book.
Yeah.
And that's a whole lofty goal that takes a long time. So when building a game, it really is kind of like a comic book or a movie, insofar as it is world building. And the games that I tend to like have, I guess, not exactly a story, but there's a kind of idea of a story that you go through, and it lets you control what the story is with your imagination. Enough elements have been placed in front of you that you can build off of those elements in your mind. So I think a lot of times you bring the richness to the game. The game doesn't provide all of that. It's not like a comic book. A comic book actually explains all of that. It does a lot of world building, but in games or in board games, again, this is only from what I've experienced. I don't know what the methodology is in an experienced game designer and how they build it.
Right.
But I feel like you just put these good hooks in. You put good hooks in so that the person can build from that. So you do think of world building, and it does get very convoluted. The other thing, and we've had these talks over and over again, about building for your client. And I know when you're doing your illustrations, you're building for yourself primarily, and then when you do client, like when you build for, let's say, a assumed consumer or assumed client or a fan, you might change it or do one for them, like one for you, one for them. Like you're specifically taking and tell me if I'm wrong. You might want to expand
Well,
on that a little bit.
I try not to do that, just because time, there's not enough time to do one for them, one for me, right now. So what I'm trying to do is paint what I like, but also like who's gonna put this on their wall? Is it does it communicate to them? Does it um do they relate to it? But it's still like, do I still want to paint it? Do I still want to execute it? Do I still want to explore it? If I don't, then no, I have to change it. But it's the middle ground. Because I don't have time to do what I want to do, and luckily most of the time it's what I want to do and what people want kind of come together, so yeah. But that would be a nice nice way, but not right now. No. Nice
Right.
way to have one for you, one for them, or one for me, one for them.
Well, it's more like 10 for you and one for the, because you do it, I notice you do it on your conventions. It's usually you do one for the convention. Like I noticed when, and this might be not currently, but I remember when you were doing kind of the superhero paintings in your style.
Oh, the
one for
tribute
the
fan art
yeah,
pieces.
yeah. When you do a fan art
But I
piece,
still like them. I still enjoy doing them. It's not like it's completely out of my wheelhouse. Or
right?
completely like I do.
Well, you make it your own too.
Yeah,
You
I'm making my
absolutely
own. I
put your
am a
spin on
fan. I
it. Yeah.
didn't pick anything that I didn't like. Um, and I didn't go all the way to, fan art. It's fan art, but it's not like it's still my own take on it.
Is it
And
more like an homage to the
yeah,
character?
yeah, and that's that's there's some thought put into it because you do need things that people relate to,
Absolutely.
and they see what they like in it. Even like one of my early paintings, I get a lot of comments like, "Oh, this reminds me of Alice in Wonderland." It's not at all. There's no Alice in the Wonderland elements in it, but it reminds them of that, so they can relate to it, and
Well,
they
I
they
think that
purchase
thing
it.
you just had with relate, I think that's a
Yeah,
big thing in art. I
yeah,
think that's a big thing in why people buy art. I mean, the idea of relating to it and it bringing an emotion from your past is a big deal for people to buy art. In fact, it's a big deal for me, and I would imagine that everybody. You buy what you like, what you know, what's consistent with what you
yes.
know.
Putting it in your house. It's for
Yeah,
you. I mean, unless you're my mom.
yeah. And unless you're my mom, absolutely. There's a different. You know, that's so funny. I never thought about that.
How many
Our
people
moms
that
have a
would put
different.
something that they don't like in their house is like it's their child's art.
Yeah.
So yeah, of course you have to be, you have to relate to it. You have to enjoy it. And I paint things I like, things I enjoy, but I make sure like it's not people can relate to it. Like I said, it communicates to them something that they're comfortable with. What's that word? Acceptance? No. What's that word?
Inclusion.
It's accessible to them? Is that
Accessible.
the word?
Yeah.
Yeah, like they
Makes
can
sense.
they can interact with it without too much like interference or too much, like, oh, I'm too, and some people like that, like, oh, I don't want to, I'm scared of looking at this, and some people like that kind of thing and they have that fan base. But I think majority is like, oh, this is what I'm feeling inside. I'm okay to explore it, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I think, and I'm turning off my phone, so if someone just opened. I think for myself, and I think we all started, or maybe you and I started both in the same place, doing illustrations first. Um, and I have still to this day, I have no idea how I got into motion graphics and sequential movement and art, because that's not what I ever
Well, you
wanted to.
you started in comic books, wanting to do comic books. So
Yeah,
you always
right.
had
So,
storytelling, the
right,
sequential art,
right.
and
So the funny thing, the starting with sequential art and comic books led to animation, led to motion graphics. It was still telling a story, a linear story, in
yeah,
that direction. And then uh, going into this game board, I just kind of saw it as another form of telling a story. Um, so I
except
think
in non-linear format.
in a very non-linear form,
Yeah,
and a very you have to put these pieces together.
that's hard. That's really hard
Yes, yes, and it is, and it's a lot of
because
assumption for who the
I
player.
we talked about how you wanted the gameplay to be. We talked about last week. Um, you wanted the player to open the card when they first do this, and then open this card when they do this. So it's a very linear thing you want the player to do. How do you get them to do that
Yes,
when you're not there
not
going,
easy.
read this, look at this? They might go off and go, no, I don't want to do any of that yet. I want to go, you know,
Yes,
roll the dice and do something else.
and it's funny you say that, because we're talking, like, let's talk about, go back to your illustration, and I'm gonna, that you draw what you want to draw. What you draw what connects to you first, and then you hope that it connects to someone else as well. And you have a beautiful style that kind of crosses that medium, that can. I've always thought you have. It's not a neutral style. I don't really know how to explain it the right way. It's very much an acceptable style. It's something that invites you in. It's an inviting style. Um, and your color palette is inviting, and it's the medium, or the subject matter that you do is always different. Is always, and sometimes it's more fantasy and sometimes it's less, but it's always whimsical. There's always something kind of special and magical about it. But it's very much you.
It's yeah, I try to do that. And one of the things I do, and it's very light research. I'm not a fashion person, or I'm not an interior decorator, but I do look at what's trending in houseware, what colors are popular. But what I like, if I'm not gonna do neon colors, I don't like it. I'm not gonna put
Right.
that in my house.
I
I
do.
am looking for I am looking, sorry, Dean, I'm not gonna do neon
I
colors. I am
love color.
I am looking for what my aesthetic is, and hope that it's somewhere it's still trending, you know? Like right now there's this what is it called? Cottage something cottage something. Oh my gosh. But it's like, hey, I've been doing that for years, you
Yeah.
know? And and so I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta like, up that part of it, because I like that. So I do
Right.
check
Right.
what's trending, and try to uh use it, try
Right.
to, yeah. So there is some thought process in what people are liking, what people are into,
Right.
but not a
Well,
huge research. You just
I
hope
think
that
for me,
like what you like, there's a category for it.
yes,
And
yeah.
if you don't, oh, then you got a lot of like, you got a lot of got to figure yourself out. And
Well, it's also, we still got to pay the rent with this stuff.
yeah, but you know, yeah, you might be a unique person. I'm not saying you in general, but you as in the, you know, out there,
Yeah.
you,
There's 1,000 U's,
the
absolutely,
1,000
10,000
years,
U's.
you might think you're unique and special, but
No, you can find that 10,000 U's.
yeah,
That's just
and
the way
because of the
how
how
certain.
social media, internet, you know, you can see styles around the world. You're not alone. I'm sorry, you're not
Right.
special.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I agree with that on
You'll
a very.
find your niche.
You might just be a special niche that's
Yeah,
smaller than
you'll
someone
find
else's
your
niche.
niche,
Yes,
and
and
then
and it's
and
a
you,
lot of searching, and you'll find your
yeah,
people. And it's a research project unto itself.
yeah.
Absolutely.
But make sure
Well,
you are that niche too. You know,
right,
if you're doing stuff for another niche, then you are no longer you as the brand. Now you are creating a whole new brand that's not you, which is fine, you know, but that is then it becomes just a money making venture. You're
right,
not,
which is also fun.
which is fine, yeah.
Yeah, you and I have been in commercial art our whole lives,
Yeah,
and we are even when we're creating art. I think there is very much a product mentality
yeah.
to what we're doing. Yes, it is art. Yes, it is artistic. Yes, it is a vision we want it to be, but it's still to be monetized. It's still to be accepted.
Because guess what? Both directions, both paths will burn you out. Both
Oh
paths
God, yeah.
will be painful, and both paths can be successful. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
There's so many good and bad potentials in both paths. So it depends on what your
absolutely,
drive is. Which way do you want to go?
absolutely,
And
absolutely.
both suck. Both will suck.
I think in this journey that I've had on the creative side, um, finding out specifically this gameplay stuff, um, and wanting to put story in it, and finding that I technically cannot build for myself because there is usability, and it is not something that can stand on its own. It's not something that you can put on a wall and admire. It's something that you actually have to work with, and it has to do a thing, and it adds a component that I've never expected. Like I said, I've done stories, I've done sequential stories, uh, but it's by itself. There is no
But you
interaction.
know, like if you click on a video, it's gonna play from beginning to end, and that's the only way
Yes,
a person can go. In a book, there's
yes, and
only,
you're for the ride or not. You either turn it
yeah.
off or you
If it's
watch
a
it all the
book,
way through.
it's front to back. That's it.
Yes,
There's no other way,
yes.
unless that, you know, those choose your own adventure books.
Well, and that's the whole thing. Even choose your own adventure is a set path. It
It's
isn't
still a set. Yeah,
you're
yeah.
stopping in the middle going, oh no, I want to choose a new adventure. And oh no, I want to change a new adventure, even though it's a lot of variables, but they are very, very strict variables in those.
And I think that's why, like, I think game development or game usability is similar to website usability,
Absolutely. I agree. Absolutely. Absolutely.
because
Where you're going back and forth and back and
you
forth.
know, my other job, doing websites. It's like you get so many like, I went here and I don't know what to do. And you're like, how did you get there even? What motivated you to go there? You
Right.
know?
Right.
And then you gotta think like, okay, I gotta get you back from that weird place on the website you went to. And so you it's there's, I think there's similarities in
Absolutely. I agree. I agree. I think there's also the similarity that you're not there with the user.
mhm, yeah.
So if you didn't do your job successfully, if you did your job successfully, you don't have to be there with your user or player, right?
Yeah.
But if you didn't do it, you basically, and this is the funny thing. I was having a discussion with this, trying to make someone understand. You understand if I make a mistake in this, that it's failed. They stop. If they don't want to go to the next move because I left out a piece of information, and then the whole project failed. It doesn't matter what the artwork is. It doesn't matter how pretty the 3D pieces are. It doesn't matter. And none of that matters if one step was done incorrectly, then it's broken. And all the hard work and all the money and all the time is wasted because of the user interface, of the user experience. And I think, we talk about, this UI and UX came out not
Back in the
recently.
90s. Back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Ancient
But it's
history.
been talked about.
Website.
It's been taught, but it's been talked about now as something you can go to classes for, you take workshops for.
No, I wanted to tell you the website story.
Oh well.
Website story. Back in the 90s. It was really important to put, okay, so the navigation bar, as you know it now, everybody's pretty familiar with a navigation bar at the top. That's where you go,
Right.
To other parts of the site. Well, that was not part of the usability back in the 90s. That's something that evolved, right? So when the first navigation bars started showing up, and it was important to put home in the navigation because people didn't know how to get back to the main page of the website. But us designers, we were putting the link in the logo because, oh, that would be great. We can save room. People can click on the logo and get back to, but people didn't.
I still click on logos, by the way.
Yeah, no, that's what it is right now. People are used to that now. But for a long time, we had to put home in the navigation. And we still sometimes are asked to do that. But people started like getting used to clicking on the logo, and then we were able to remove it from the navigation.
Right.
So it's like if you're creating a game that's people are not used to, like have never played before, I can imagine like, how do I even navigate through this?
It's mind numbing. It's like I spent
point, go here and it's I can't imagine because I was there when the internet became www,
yeah. I mean,
and
especially the internet design.
Yeah. So yeah, and I just remember like we had to put home because people couldn't figure out how to get back to the main page. They got lost.
Right.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that is a helpful thing, that is a hindrance on the physical board game side of it, is that you can go back and change that icon, that link, if it's not working. You can immediately go, okay, this isn't working, blah, 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 blah. Try it now.
Yes, that's true. That's that's the good thing about websites is that you can keep.
And it's the same thing with video.
And it's not a big deal to do that. And anything printed or sent out, like DVD or whatever, or that's not on the cloud. Yeah, it's you
It's a
have to,
forever thing. Your mistake
yeah, it's a forever
is there
thing
and it's
until
done.
you have a new
Yeah.
version out and people buy it, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, if it's broken at that level, um, yeah, it's
Yeah. I had a
it's
discussion with my
it's
son
it's broken. Yeah.
about that, and we were trying to figure out percentages of how far the game is done, and it was very difficult because we had two different things. And he said something that was very, very educational for me. So he knows way more about board games than I do. But he said you can't have the factor that you're there in the conversation.
Hmm.
You can never know if your board game or your game is done until you step out of it and see how it operates without you.
Yeah.
Because if you have a player that knows what's going on, then the game is so much better. Any game is better when there's someone who knows all the ins and outs of the game.
That's what
Uh,
I I'm excited to like get your game here, my house, because I can't play with you. I'm not where
right,
you are.
right, right.
Um,
And
but
it
to
keeps
hear and
changing
play with
every
my
time. Like
family,
I sent it to you. Yes.
play with my family without you and see if we play successfully. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
where we're gonna get hung ups and hang ups.
Well, let's get into that because I think some interesting things have. So just so that this is on record, we've been playing around with this since October of last year, and back and forth, you and I, writing instructions, going through ideas, and then me and Christian, me and Macy, and a lot of people, and Drew, and a lot of and Juan and Amy, and a lot of people have been involved in so far as taking the play tests and trying to get it further and further and further, and finding the mistakes or finding. And I don't think it's actually there's mistakes. There's trouble points where you get off track. And I was walking, so right outside my house is the Chattahoochee River, and I usually go and walk on the woods trying to figure stuff out. And I had asked Christian to listen to a pitch of where I wanted the game to go. And what I found fascinating, and I don't know if other people do this, I have no idea, but I have difficulty in trying to figure out a story outside of myself. Like I can't write a story. I actually have to live the story for it to feel purposeful. And I guess that's the important word, purposeful, that I'm invested in it on that level. And we were talking about a game mechanic, and I said, and I was trying to explain to him, well, I want it to work like this. He was like, well, we would work it like this. And I got up and I said, well, go on this idea with me that we're in the library. So the whole game, of course, is in a library, and you're going through the bookcases and the shelves and the aisles. And I said, see, if we walk down this path, this is what would happen in reality, in this real world that I've invented in my mind. That's how I want the game to play. I want the game to play like I'm physically in it. I want it to be this immersive thing. So all of that, my creative process is built on trying to actually feel physically in a game. I don't know if that's the right way to do it. I'm just saying that's the way I do it. And the funny thing is, he had that aha moment of, oh, then he got up and stood and said, okay, if I was here, I was here. And that has been oddly, and this is the first time I think I'm talking to you about this. This is the first oddly has actually worked itself in the game, that sense of reality of being in the library. So just for anybody who's listening, it's happening inside of a haunted library, a university-sized library. It's a huge library, but part of the game is that the library stacks are moving. The shelves are moving. There's a limbo scenario where you can get lost in the library. And this weekend, the aha moment was, what if we change this, and we scrap the story for a second and come back to it. And the story change was, let's do something that makes this real, that makes this the situation of the library, why it does the mechanics that it does. Like, let's build the mechanics in the story. And the conclusion was, what happens if this deck of cards that represents the library is an astral projection of a real library, of this real haunted library where we can't go to the library because we would die because there's so many supernatural creatures in this library, but we can go to this library on an astral projection, that we can actually interact and actually see all of these ghosts and goblins and supernatural creatures because we're in their dimension, as opposed to having this physical thing. So while we're experiencing this library, no one else would know this is happening. And that's part of world building, where you're sitting there going, well, this is a fanciful thought. This is how is this sold to the people who play? How do we get there? And it's been crazy, because you know how many times you've done the instructions already, how many times I've had Macy do the instructions, how many times I've tackled the instructions. And this was basically throwing the instructions out and just saying, okay, let's throw it out, because now we have a story component. And to make this story component work, the instructions, the gameplay is still the same. The gameplay doesn't change, but now the way it's discussed has to be part of story. Has to be what is the motivation of this? Like, if you remember, we're saying flipping the cards in sequence. What is the motivation of this? Oh, because spells are done in a certain way. A spell cannot be achieved. And I've done so much research on magic for this game. A spell cannot be achieved unless Eye of Newt is put in, and then Wormswort is put in. You can't put Wormswort first and then Eye of Newt. It doesn't work.
Mhm.
So going on these kind of reasoning of what happens in a supernatural world, going and all of these things, why a player would have buy-in is the player is in the game. The player is part of the game. And the game is actually seen as a physical, real thing, like a Ouija board almost. A Ouija board to the library. It's just an extension for how to see things. So far, I haven't even shown you this part. This was actually what we're supposed to talk about today. So I'm good with going through some of this with you and seeing what your take is, and having you express your opinion and ideas and changes and whatever you want to do with that. And we don't have to do this for the whole thing, but I think having this back and forth or recorded back and forth would be interesting.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, I like you to go through the whole thing, not piece by piece, so I can get the idea of the big picture.
Okay.
Because you know how I get. I'll get into
Yeah.
the minutia of stuff, and then you're like, no, I'll explain that later. Or no, that's taken care of.
Oh no, I have it all. I have it all listed out. So
Yeah.
so let's talk about that. That's the hard part about doing a user experience, is that, since the game is non-linear, explaining instructions is really difficult.
Yes.
Oh my God, is
Oh
it
my
difficult?
gosh. That's why some of those games like Catan, it's like there's an appendix or almanac or something they call it. And it's like,
yeah, you have to have multiple literature.
Yeah.
That dials in to a certain aspect of it.
Yeah.
And it's the
But
cohesiveness.
if we see the big picture, maybe we're thinking too much, and it could be
Right.
simple. This part can be simplified to this. So like, I don't, yeah, I don't want to go one at a time and give you my opinion. I rather hear the whole thing and then
Okay. Well, I'll use the imagery as a pacing order
okay,
for
yeah,
myself, because you know how I am, and my brain goes all over the place with what I'm retaining and what I'm not retaining in an order. Now this is going to be clunky because it's going to be shown through
yeah. And
Illustrator.
I will like have questions that you're gonna go.
Yes.
We'll talk about that later, but
Yeah.
uh,
No.
I
We'll
just
go.
don't. I don't want to give you my opinion until I hear the whole
Okay.
thing because you know how
Okay.
I am.
So yeah.
I
We'll
will
do what
take
we
you
do.
down a different path, and
That's what this is for. That's what, and I think I wrote something on Patreon about sometimes I get it wrong, and it's a big thing because I get a lot of flack for going in a direction and then changing a direction, and it's hard to explain to everybody why the change has been made. And sometimes the change is made by simply, well, I played it and I looked at everybody's faces while I was playing it with them, and they were not having fun. My job as a creator of this is they have to have that good experience. So even if something makes sense, sometimes it just has to change because it's not
I
um,
I think you're
resonate.
trying to achieve the same thing I'm trying to achieve with my illustration, but in a much bigger scale. You
Yeah,
like
and that's
this,
it.
that you like
Yes,
the subject, you like the story, you like the storytelling, and you want to tell it, but they are relating to the gaming of it. So you're kind of
exactly.
um, you using this gaming device to tell your story. As I am
Absolutely.
trying to tell my story through art, through a print that
Or
people
an
buy.
illustration.
Yeah. Of
Absolutely.
course, your story, you got a world going on. I don't. I just have this like little.
My story has to just make it, not even make sense. It just has to work. And it's very easy to not work,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
and very quickly that it could
Mine's
go.
mine's easy. I just have to worry about composition, color
Yes.
theory, values, and make sure it prints right. you know.
Yeah, I think as I was saying, I've learned as a designer. Um, I think game creation falls on so many levels as a designer, like as a story creator, as a writer, as a conceptual artist, as a compositor, and colors and all of that stuff. It all is in there, but it's making all of that stuff play well together, and which is not easy. Not easy
And
for
full
me at least.
disclosure to people watching,
Yes.
we we're not game developers.
Yeah, that's also really important.
It's
We're both designers.
yeah,
We're both designers and both
in
creative
different in
directors.
different yeah
Yeah.
industry. I don't
You
know.
in web and me in motion graphics.
Right.
We love the
And
medium.
you're comic book, cartoon style. I'm more illustrative,
Yes.
fine art style, and it's not just us two. There's other people involved.
Yes.
Um, but we
With
are
other
not
styles and other
game
passions.
developers. We don't. We're just. What are we doing? Why are we doing? We'll get into it.
I
But
think we're just in love with creativity and art, to be totally
yeah,
honest. I think we do all of this because at the end of the day, we just love the medium,
yeah.
and we like to just push and see what it can do, and in all sorts of different directions. And it really is, maybe it's game design this week and it's doing a play next week, and it's
This
you
week,
know
you mean this year?
yeah. Well, in
I
my
wish it could
head,
be just this week and be done,
in my
but
in
it's
my, in
not.
my head.
Why do you pick these hard, long, drawn out?
No idea. I've been doing this for I have my friend Macy says it all the time. Go big or go home, Dean Fellas. She goes, you
Oh
can't
my
do
God,
anything
she
that
does?
isn't big.
That, oh my God, that's perfect. Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah.
what I think too.
Yeah, it's just I can't be anything more than that. All right, so let me share this screen with you. I'm going to set up
Oh,
my
I got about
Illustrator file. So
15 more minutes, so
okay, well we'll just go. We'll
okay,
just go and
we'll just start,
let's
and
go.
then we're probably gonna break this up
We'll do it all week.
days.
That's fine. I am just trying to turn off my spell check. There it goes. Okay. No, F
Excuse me.
one more time. Make sure I center this and go and do a screen share. Okay, so you're seeing my screen now, right?
Yes.
So one of the things that had to happen was I had made these character tokens to play on the board. And again, a lot of the times when I'm building, I'm kind of building intuitively. I'm not so far as saying, okay, these tokens have a reason. Um, there's a lot of things that I do by instinct, and I make it work after the fact. So the whole point of the card game is that it is built off a deck of regular poker cards that have the suits, the diamonds, the clubs, the spades, and the heart suits. So I wanted to connect that to the players somehow. And I didn't really dial into that and say, well, this is the reason why. I figured when I get to the story part of it, I'll understand it more. One of the things that was mentioned by a playtester was how much they love the fact that it wasn't a character, that they could be the character, that they could be the diamonds, but the diamonds is an abstract notion so that they could put themselves into it. On this version that we're at, the playing pieces actually became agents. They're actually agents that are brought in, and they're agents of the dead. So because of the nature of what the library is, and it is a haunted library, well, how do you find a haunted library? So I pulled a lot from the BPRD, Hellboy. I pulled a lot from watching things like Sherlock Holmes and Scooby-Doo and Frighteners. You remember Frighteners, the movie where you could interact with these ghosts, and the ghosts saw what was really happening. The crimes happened on this spectral plane. I said, well, that's a really cool idea. So let's make that the house suits, the poker suits, the diamond, the clubs, the spades, and the hearts, that they are basically the souls of people. They are not the bodies, they're not physical bodies, but they are the souls of people that recently departed. And there is a master commission that actually uses souls of people to be their operatives. So in this way, you are an operative. Your soul is an operative. There is no body and there is no loss of life. Now, you can't, of course, die. Your soul can die. But the motivation for the player became, if you complete this mission, you get your body back. Everybody who's in this library has an opportunity to come out of the library with their physical body intact. So I thought that was a good motivator. I thought that was different. I thought that was something that I hadn't seen before. And I think the imagery on the playing pieces, I like the fact that they're kind of in this moment of death. They have this fear in their face, or they have this kind of mystery. Yes.
Is that you on the diamond?
No, but it looks like it, doesn't it?
I've been meaning to ask.
No, let's talk about that. So all of the pieces that I use, I am a cartoonist, but I do not do realistic illustration. You know that.
Right.
So these are actually stock photography. This is iStock, and whatever stock photography is. I got so many collections of stock photography that I've bought in my career, that I've had these pieces, and I usually just reinterpret them to fit what I need them to fit. So these are a couple of different stock photography houses. So much Photoshop was used, so much Photoshop to get these pieces. So I just searched out something that I felt like fear. The other thing was to basically make this more suspenseful, was to try and get things that were felt an emotion, felt something connected. And I was happy with the way these elements came out. They were very unique from what I've seen in player pieces or player tokens. They're very unique in so far as they're highly designed, as opposed to illustrated or conceptualized. But they were supposed to. They are moments of death. Are these players? So this is how these players died. Now, the Commission for Interdimensional Anomalies and Supernatural Threats is the umbrella of this corporation or this organization that goes on.
Theast?
Theast.
Theast.
Yes. Actually, the I should be silent. It's cast. Cast. Okay. So that you're a cast agent. And we don't. So there's an underlying story to this whole thing, because remember, it's a story game. So yes, there is gameplay, but there is also very much heavy story in this. Chris and I have been discussing this, that there should be a separate book that goes with this game that just explains what cast is, what cast's history is, what the player's history are. So if we take these, how did they die? Who are they? And then if you go to that idea that they're souls, well, they technically can be of any age. So they don't have to be, it's easier to, of course, deal with the recently departed, but there are special assignments that we might need some Romans to come into this to tackle whatever this situation is. And I wanted this episodic and reoccurring, so that this idea could constantly come in. So these agents have a task, and this task is specific to the game. The agents can be tasked for all sorts of things, and there might be more games to be created with this kind of agent idea. But for this particular situation, is the agents are hired to basically close down the portal to the underworld. It just happens that a sect that worship Osiris, called the Children of the Dead God, want to bring Osiris back, the Egyptian god Osiris, and they want to bring back the portal to the underworld that Osiris was basically the god of, or the king of. They can only interact with the underworld on an astral projection. The underworld is something that we can't see. It's just another dimension. So the Children of the Dead God want to make it real. And that's why we're going to this library. Somewhere in there is a portal to the real dimension that our undead or our dead agents need to find. If this portal is open, it will take over the earth. It is more powerful than anything that we have here. And this is not just taking from the Egyptian underworld. Our concept for this is that the underworld is one place that, for all dimensions, so Norse mythology, Christian mythology, Greek mythology, African mythology, Aboriginal mythology, it's all here. Native American mythology, it's all here. The underworld is just a place where all of this exists. It's another dimension. It's a dimension upon dimensions. So by going into this world, we can bring in all these myths and folklores and imagination and legend, and just some really cool subject matter. So your job, find the portal inside of the library and capture the portal and bring it to cast. So you secure it, and then you take it out of the library, and that's basically the gist of the story. We've simplified it. I have tons and tons.
A portal can be an object, or what do you
The
mean?
portal is an artifact.
Okay.
So and the reason we did that is it was for gameplay. The portal is a physical artifact. It's kind of like a door.
Like Harry Potter's.
Yeah, there's yes. So there's a lot of things that already exist in literature that kind of explain this whole thing.
Right.
Harry Potter, actually watch the movies or read the books. There's tons of portals, but this isn't just subject to Harry Potter. It's every piece of literature contains a portal to the underworld or a door to the underworld. So we're just making sure it's kept closed.
Right.
Cast has the facilities to close all these portals and protect this from ever getting out. Okay. Any other questions before I tell you more? Or what are your thoughts?
So far, so good. But I think we have to stop.
You want to stop here?
Yeah, because it's
okay. So let's stop here, and we'll just talk about it more tomorrow. Okay, cool beans. All right. I'm gonna hit stop sharing.
Okay, and I'm gonna stop recording.
Yes.
Wherever that is, and okay, bye. Okay,
before you go.
I'm not going. I'm just stopping the recording.
Okay.
I'm just saying bye to whoever's listening.
Okay.